and welcome to another episode of Nights at the Round Table. Welcome. It's your boy Manny Fresh and my girl Bobise over there.
Hi.
Queen right here. Be Real over here. Hey guys, so many exciting things besides the fact that we're in a new location, a new locale. Our first tour we did in New York City, which was absolutely amazing.
So fun.
Now we've kind of ventured out into our sitting room and we have new digs. And if you can see, we have special glasses that Bobise got me for my birthday.
It's a present for everybody.
Cheers to Bobise.
Cheers to me.
Cheers to Bobise.
Let's all go around and say something that we love about.
How about we just talk to them about the wine?
Okay, yes. Oh, this is our first bottle of wine. Oh, so we're all doing the drinking already. Okay. Okay.
It's good.
What do we think before I say anything about it?
I like it. I don't go.
Sense of wine.
Yeah, I'm
so
not sure.
This is the first wine bottle we have been sent in from a listener. She's a friend of mine. Her name is Linda. At the current time of this recording, she is single. Guys, shoot your shot. We'll tag her on Instagram. Linda, stop. This has seriously become my favorite wine since she introduced me to it like a couple months ago. It's called Cigar, and it's not actually a cab, which I usually is my favorite type of red wine. It is a old vine Zinfandel, and you can only get it in Napa, apparently, or online. It's from Napa. It's 2017 Cigar, and it's so smooth. It just tastes really good. And there's a Winston Churchill quote on the back. So it's just...
You got to read it, though.
I got to... Do the people want it?
Oh,
people want it, yeah.
I want it.
Winston Churchill says this: "My rule of life prescribed as an absolutely sacred right, smoking cigars and also the drinking of alcohol before, after, and if need be, during all meals and in the intervals between them." And on that note, cheers.
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 That sounded like the quote of all drunkards everywhere.
Yeah.
I reserve the right to drink and whenever I want.
Anytime I want. Any and all meals. Oh, here we go. Cheers.
Manny, what do you think? I'm interested. What do you think of this one?
You know, if cigars' ashes were turned into liquid,
Oh, wow.
this is what it
That's
would
not
taste
true.
like.
It doesn't, just so people know, it doesn't taste
No.
anything like tobacco. or
Also, for
cigars.
those of you who are confused, when
Oh
you're
my
like, what do you
gosh.
mean if we can see your glass? Those are for those watching on YouTube right now.
Yes.
If you don't know, we do
Special
have a
perks.
YouTube channel that you guys should check out so you can see our pretty faces, some more than others. Pretty faces. We're just trying to hold on at some point since we're old. And by we, I mean me. And by me, I mean me.
Oh.
39. Here
Moment
we
for
go.
Manny.
My
Here
goodness.
we go. Hey, today we're talking about getting rid of toxic people in your life.
Celebrate good
Wow.
times. Come on.
We're just talking about those toxic people that, you know, we all have them in our lives. Those people that as much as you give the benefit of the doubt, somehow, some way, they just seem to bring your life down and suck every ounce of good hope and energy that you have. And it's just everything in you it takes of all your energy to just not slap the shiza out of them. And was that too much?
No, and I feel like the term toxic has become more popular these days, so it's easy to throw that word around.
Yeah.
And in the same breath, I would say it's still people have a hard time recognizing toxicity in their life, and maybe because it's a family member or a friend they've had for such a long time, they don't realize that if you feel at the end of the day like so drained of your energy, or every time you know you're about to hang out with this person, you have to like pump yourself up or be like, okay, like I just need the energy to get through this, and they're a good person, but I just know it takes a lot out of me when I like, those are things where it's maybe that relationship might be toxic for you. And like we were saying, not necessarily that person is a toxic person. There are some toxic people out there, but maybe that person's not toxic, but maybe the combination of them with you is toxic in your life. In the same way, my babe is more sensitive to gluten than I am. Gluten is not toxic itself, but to him, it's a little toxic. To me, I'm fine.
Whereas crack cocaine is toxic to everyone.
To everyone.
So
Yes.
everyone has a crack friend and everyone has a gluten friend.
That's right.
But in our own ways, let's describe what it looks like. Okay, so for me, my toxic situation looked like getting taken advantage of. So the
Okay.
people that were in my life that were toxic always took and never gave back. So they just were always making withdrawals at the ATM. Sometimes literally. Sometimes literally. And I recognize, oh, these people are not here to feed me in any type of way. They're just here to take as much as they can get. And then when I'm done giving, they'll be done being my friend. That's what it looked like in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, I love that you guys said that. I think there is a difference between toxic people and toxic behavior. And I think that toxic behavior can be shared amongst the gluten people and the crack people.
Yeah, the crackheads. Let's
If
just call them
that's-
crackheads.
If that's the analogy we're using
Yep,
for
we're
the
calling
day,
them
love
crackheads.
it, here for it. I think there is a difference. So we can go on one extreme or the other. We can be calling everybody toxic people. And I've done that in a season in my life when actually I had to look at the common denominator, me in every relationship, was allowing these people, the same type of people in my life doing the same thing. It was kind of, for me being in ministry and being a pastor, the toxicity was more people taking from me as a counselor, pastor, but not returning it and letting me be the girl, be the friend. In the peer level of a relationship. But I had to, at some point, instead of just throwing them a label of toxic people and bouncing, what is it in me that keeps letting these people close enough to take from me? Where are my boundaries at?
Yeah.
But instead of just saying this is behavior I keep allowing in, it's so much easier to just label someone a toxic person in
Right.
general and get rid of them. And then on the other extreme, it's not recognizing when someone actually, this person's not changing. They're refusing to change. They have a pattern of broken relationships behind them. That's a toxic person that loves giving their crack out to everybody. Just like, I don't know. Y'all want some crack? Gretchen Wiener, say crack again.
It's crack, yep.
I think what you were saying is absolutely great. I think in order to understand toxic people around you and toxic behavior, you have to have a level of self-awareness. So like a lot of people love to use, you were toxic, what you're bringing to my life is toxic. And I'm like, but you're just using that as a scapegoat to get out of taking ownership for your own life.
When they leave, you're still dealing with that issue.
Exactly. It's like as much as you can run away, you're still going to run into the same problem because it's not them, it's you, which is kind of most of life's problems. But on what we're talking about, for me, having a toxic person in my life, it looked like a couple things, and I made a list.
Yes, notes.
Because I had to really think about it, and I really broke it down into some things. But to give you kind of a backdrop, I had known this guy, and he'd been like a big brother to me. I'd known him for 10 plus years. So one of the first summer camps I ever went to as a Christian youth, he was my counselor. Years later, we ended up getting really close. He had done a lot of stuff with my family, all of this. And it got to the point where this is almost where I'm out of college now at this point. So this is actually well over 10 years, but I would say 10 years where we were actually really close. And I started assessing like what was going on in our relationship. And he's been like family to me. And that's always the toughest thing of like when you got toxic people in your family and you're like, ooh, I got to cut you out. Like that happened when Maddie and I first got married. One of my family members was posting some crazy stuff on Instagram about my stepmom. And Maddie was like, no, we're never spending holidays with them again. And I was like, you're right, because this is toxic. Like it is like weighing down on us. It's pulling from us.
Wow.
And so for him, it just felt like every time I was around him, he was always negative. Like he was always finding something to criticize anybody and anything. And when you find people like that who never have anything good to say about anybody, that's toxic. Because all of a sudden I'm like, if I'm around you and you're speaking like this, it's negative and it's criticizing all the time. What happens when I'm doing something that you feel is out of line or out of pocket? You're going to be negative and criticizing me.
Yeah.
And the other thing that he was doing was he was wasting my time, like literally. So we'd have all these like him and his wife, they would be like, hey, come over, we're going to have some dinner. And like 15 minutes before I'm about to head over there, hey, sorry, we got to cancel tonight, man. Something came up. And I'm like, bro, I had scheduled this out for my week to come and spend time with you. And this didn't just happen one time. Like this literally became majority of the time where we would plan stuff of really trying to like grow in community, grow together. And then last minute, you'd be like, actually, we can't do it. Well, there goes my Saturday because we scheduled this at 4:00.
Wow.
And so it got to a point where I was like, you are literally wasting my time. And this is such a high maintenance relationship because I am giving you so much of my emotional capacity.
Wow.
And I'm not getting that back in return. And I just realized, I'm like, you know, every relationship is going to cost you. But when the relationship starts costing you,
Yeah.
that's when it's like, you got to get out of this. You got to draw some lines. And the other thing too was he was always playing the victim, which is, oh my God, this is one of my biggest pet peeves in life because I have a lot of family members like this, always playing the victim. They are never the problem. Everything in life is like, they're just out to get me.
Yep.
It's always they. And it's like, when does they become you? Like, you are actually the problem. And so for him, a lot of that negativity and that criticism was coming out of like, well, I'm the victim. So-and-so's not doing this for me. I'm just not getting an opportunity. But I'm like, but what are you actually doing with what you got right now? What's in your hand? And then the last thing too was jealous. He was super jealous of anybody that was like around his kind of age and was like actually succeeding and thriving in what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I think a little bit of that jealousy comes from playing victim, where it's all of a sudden, it's like everything in life is happening to you and you have no control of what's happening. And you become the victim. And then anybody who is actually shining or thriving in their lane, you just get jealous. You're like, oh, well, that's because so-and-so gave them a break, or that's because
Right.
so-and-so gave them an opportunity. And then the final straw for me was him talking terribly about my dad and my best friend. And at that point, I was just like,
Like to you?
yeah, to me.
Jeez.
And stuff not even true. So this is during the time my parents divorced. So he's like
no.
helping spread these
no.
lies and these rumors about stuff apparently my dad did.
Why did he feel comfortable saying it to you?
you.
Like, that's strange to me.
I think because we had been so close for so long. Like, I mean, he'd pick me up from school sometimes in high school. He'd come to my basketball games. Was like a huge like friend to me. He was like a big brother. And I think a lot of those frustrations and stuff actually had to do with him because he thought he'd be further along in life than he was at that point. But I think he thought maybe there was an opportunity for me to like turn on my dad. I'm not really sure. I haven't really thought about
Well,
that.
if he was as close as you say he is, and it's like a brother vibe, then always within siblings, there's this, you're allowed to talk crap about your parents.
Right.
You're allowed to be like, man, dad sucks. He's
Right.
an a-hole,
Yeah.
man. Can you
Right.
believe he did this? Or, your sister sucks, man. She's such a bitch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to do that when you have that much, when you're that comfortable.
Right. No, I get that. I totally get that because I feel like I have friends that I could vent to about a family member and they can do the same to me. And like I'm this one friendship, like she can tell me something about her dad and I'd be like, oh, your dad frustrates me.
Yeah.
And like I get it. Like I'm not family. So if I were to like continue on and be like, oh, your dad's such a this and such a that, like I probably wouldn't go there. But when she's vented to me for so long, I might feel like I have permission to say certain things back.
Sure. I mean, look, that's interesting that you said, because when you were saying wasting time, I think at some point, as he's talking, I was probably toxic to a friend of mine because I would waste his time. I would always tell him, I'm going to call you right back. And I never would call him back. And the one time he had to call me out, he was like, look, bro, when you don't call me back and you tell me that you're going to call me back, I set aside time from my wife and my kids to make time for you because I think you want to talk. When you don't, what you're telling me is that your time is way more important than mine. That's how you see yourself and your time. And that's disrespectful to me. And when he called me out, this is one of my closest friends. Man, I felt so bad because he was right. Like when you start considering yourself before the other person and their time isn't as valuable, then it's like, man, I was toxic. I changed that crap real quick.
Yeah, but I think that that's such a cool example of somebody recognizing toxic behavior, calling it out, and then seeing what happens. And I think so often we've all been guilty of not just being a toxic person and not
For sure.
displaying toxic behavior,
There you go.
whether realizing it or not. We've all been guilty of that. I have for sure been guilty of that. And I've also been guilty of having toxic behavior in my life from friends, from people, and not doing anything about it because of a fear of confrontation. And I think one thing, I was just talking to my dad today, we're talking about me learning some conflict skills in the last couple of years. Like just turned 30 and I've just learned conflict. And it's because, I guess growing up in church, growing up in a family where I wasn't just the only child, you learn quickly what to do to keep everyone happy in a sense. And there's nothing wrong with being a team player. I think that's great. Sometimes the other extreme is that you don't know how to do that. But along the way, you can learn really easy how to keep people happy at the expense of your own soul and the expense of your own emotions and emotional health. And I've really recently had to learn how to put up boundaries and when. And the thing I'm discovering is the longer you leave it, the harder it is to put up the boundaries. It's really hard to pull out of something when you're so far into it, rather than like make some adjustments as you see some things happening. And I've had so many relationships that have been that I've done well recently, a couple that I've done well that I felt real proud of. And then a whole bunch more that I left way too long, of friendships that, sometimes the most harmful relationships can be like girl on girl cattiness behind the scenes, not just a punch up that guys, can do outside the club. I don't know. Do guys do that?
Punch up outside the
You
club.
want to go, bro?
You want to go, bro?
Punch up. Is that an Australian thing?
I think so.
Punch up.
Let's go, bro.
That's what we
Let's
say
go.
if like a joke is not that funny.
Oh, really?
Somebody will be like, you
gotta
should
punch
punch
that
that up.
I think in Australia, Australians, let me know if that's still a thing. Punch up means like guys like got into a brawl.
It's good. I'm learning.
But
I'm going to use it.
yeah, you're welcome. But I think that can be sometimes the girl manipulation stuff. Not that guys can't do it, but it can be really, really harmful and takes a while to see, and then takes even longer to work up the courage to call out. Because the whole idea of cattiness and bitchiness is that you do it behind the scenes and no one knows you're doing it, in a sense. And so how do you call out something that's intentionally being done like behind the scenes? And so I think for me, I learnt in high school how to be catty, and now in my 30s I'm learning conflict. And
I think that's interesting because a lot of girls have problems. I always end up giving a lot of advice to girls that have that same problem. Like, they are so afraid to confront the other girl.
because for
their
so
stuff.
many years you learned how to confront behind the scenes.
Just
So
talk
it's-
crap about each other.
No,
Behind the back.
please. It's so much more complicated than that. There's so much more to it.
Please break it down for me.
No, we don't. We don't want to be teaching people that. But I will do a YouTube video on that later if you want to subscribe. What, Elise? My point is, I'm thinking of our relationship that my tendency looking at my life now, which is something that, again, I've been realizing recently this year, and something that I'm starting to work on, is my tendency in my life to get really close with people quickly. And I think we actually talked about it in the abuse podcast. And that was the start of me going, oh crap, that's something I do in friendships. And being able to see that part, and what that does is it doesn't allow me to see red flags in friendships.
Right.
And toxic stuff, or like we were saying, poisonous stuff is another way to describe those relationships, before you're so far in deep that now it's a huge thing to pull out and create boundaries. And I think the biggest thing I'm learning is allow people, you said this, Manny, like allow people to show you who they are, and then act accordingly. I think sometimes we're good at allowing people to show us who they are, but not acting accordingly. It's a huge part if you're going to actually do something about toxic relationships or poisonous relationships before they sting you, or like.
Yeah, I used to be that guy who gave people the benefit of the doubt until I did
He's
it
not anymore.
because
He's like, I'm a savage now.
now these niggas got a couple of tries before they're out. And it's because I used to believe, and I used to believe in the best in people, and I believe that if I love them, or if I show them enough loyalty or enough whatever, that they'll eventually like love me back and treat me like I treat them. The problem is that everybody you meet doesn't have the capacity to do that. Like, I have the capacity because I've worked on myself enough to be able to do that, to be able to see things in a semi-objective way and be like, this is what this person deserves in my life. I need to be this friend to this person. Other people have been so self-absorbed for such a long time that it's almost instinctual for them to think of themselves before anybody else. And you thinking they're just trying to diss you or trying to take advantage of you, but the reality of it is that's how they are with everybody, because it's just their instinct is me before, let me think how this is going to affect other people. So my last toxic relationship was just this past year. And, it started off good, which usually all toxic
They all
relationships
do, don't they?
It's fun.
we were together. We believed the same things. We talked the same way. We thought, everything was going to be great. But then hard times came, and this person just completely switched on me and went into a completely different belief system, everything. And all of a sudden, the things that I did in love, from letting this dude live in my house for free to lending him an obscene amount of money to, you know, anything that was mine was his. You know, when he would come to my house, he would drive my car, and everybody knows how much I love my cars. And he, you know, one time it came home and there was a dent in it, and he was like, "Oh no, that was already there." And I'm like, "This mother dented my car," and I let it go. You know, again, giving people the benefit of the doubt. And then, like I said, what I started realizing, like a sign, an Uber sign, was that this person was taken from me and not depositing anything into my life. Nothing was coming back into my life. And I didn't mean monetarily, because I knew he didn't have money to give me back. But what he wasn't giving me was the feeling of security within our friendship, like the trust, because he was such a negative person. He talked shit about everybody. He thought he was always right.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what we were talking about. He's one of those people that would swear he's right about this thing, and he swears he knows this, and 6 months later, that thing ended up being whack. So he's like, "Oh, that crap is whack. I'm on to this thing right here."
Yeah.
So he was double-minded out the butt. And eventually, he was so manipulative that I lent this nigga mad money, and he made me feel bad because he's like, "Oh, you're a tax collector coming back after me for this money." I'm like, "Trick, you owe me so much, and you told me you were gonna pay me back. Like, I'm just doing what you told me you were gonna do." And he was literally came to the point where he called me a tax collector because I expected him to honor his word and pay me back. But now he's running the streets telling everybody, "Manny's a tax collector, Manny's this person." And I'm like, this is the same dude that lived in my house for free, that I lent so much money to. And now this is where the relationship is at. And it's funny because the second he became toxic was the second that I was like, "You gotta go, bro. Like, I'm not with you." And that's because I am not afraid of confrontation. I used to be until my
also
FU moment.
But also too, your wife was in your ear a little bit before the "I gotta let you go, bro."
Well, because he wasn't toxic at that point.
He wasn't toxic, but then it was kind of like I just saw it and I was like, "Ooh."
I think that's a really good point. Brandon said at the start, Maddie had fresh eyes for one of his family members. And I think while, yes, we have all learned about toxic people and are still learning, as I'm sure the people listening are as well, and they've got plenty of stories probably coming up in their mind right now about people in their world, or self-awarely. Is that a thing?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, self-awarely.
We made it.
When they were a little bit toxic. But I think that's why it's so important to have people around you and to be humble enough to listen to people saying, "Hey, I don't know if that person's great for you, whether it's gluten or crack."
Right.
Here's the reason
so
why. Here's the reason I was so protective of it, though, because he got judged as much as I got judged.
Right.
And so I was like, "Oh, people have said this about me too. Maybe it's different for him."
But I remember, like, we would have talks at night, and this guy would have, like, Bible scriptures to back up his decision making and why he was doing what he was doing. And as we would process, even if he had, like, scripture to back up his decisions, I would still be like, "But that doesn't feel right. Like, what he's doing, like, it doesn't feel good." And I let you come to your own decision, you know, with that whole thing. I was like, "Nah, babe, you gotta stop talking to that guy." It was just, I would voice my opinion and be like, "I don't like him. I don't like what's happening. I don't like what he's doing." And it was...
Well, and I agreed. It's just that, like I say, when you let people show you their true colors, and then, you know, paint the final picture with that. So what I was allowing him to do, because I was connected to him contractually, because I would have been ghosted a long time ago, but I was in it contractually, and he wasn't the only one that was eating off of what we were doing.
Right.
So the reason I stuck around as much as I did, it was because of other people that were connected to it.
Yeah.
But the second that all that was free, I was ghost. Because for me, like, look, if someone is identified as toxic in my life, like, it is, I have no qualms being confrontational. I am the most confrontational nigga you will ever meet. For those of you who try to hate on me on social media, I will come after you. I'm not scared. And if there's somebody on the street that wants to, like, if they say something like, and I don't mean like I'm fighting or whatever, but I just mean like if there's if there's a confrontation to have, like, I don't mind having it because I just rather I don't beat around the bush about anything. Like, I just feel like honest communication is the only way we can get on the other side of something quicker. And I'm all about not wasting time these days because the older you get, that's just how it is.
Come on.
So, and that's why I'm so close to my boy Nick, because my boy Nick would tell me how it is. He's the one that I would call and not call back.
Nick
And
moment. Wait.
we had one conversation, and he was like, "Bro, you keep doing this, and it's pissing me off. If you keep doing this, I ain't gonna answer none of your phone calls." That's all. We had one conversation. And I was like, "You are right. It is fixed. Consider it done." Now it's to the point where he's like, "Bro, you don't have to freaking call me back. I'm not your wife. Chill already." Because I'm overly communicated with him. I'm like, "I'm going to call you back, bro." And I'm apologizing when
7
I don't.
minutes.
I'm like, "I'm so sorry I didn't call you back." He's like,
7.5.
Bro, we're not married. Calm the hell down. And I'm like, "Nah, man, I'm trying to fix this."
That's a very clear-cut boundary that he set for you.
It's easy.
Like, it was really like, he was really teaching you, like, hey, this is how you treat me.
Yeah.
Which I think is such a beautiful thing about setting boundaries is like, I think I said this on one of the old podcasts, but like, not only is it keeping the toxic stuff out or the poisonous stuff that could pull from you or leach from you and just suck the life right out of you, but it's also keeping your peace inside those boundaries. You know what I'm saying? Like, with my puppy Blue, if you follow me on Instagram, you will see him. He's like the cutest little
So
dude.
cootie.
And I just freaking love my dog. Anyways, I like, as playful as he is, as he knows how much we love him and we want to do the best to protect him, there's boundaries that I set for him because I'm like, hey, I'm not going to leave the front door of our house open so you can roam. I trust that you're a good dog and you're not going to go and do bad stuff, if that's even a thing. It's kind of funny. But at the same time, too, I'm like, I don't want other people walking into our house who aren't a part of this family that I can't trust. But at the same time, too, you don't need to go out there. You need to stay in here because everything that you need is right here. So the boundaries is like not only keeping the negative out, but it's keeping the good in. And that's so important.
Well, because here's what happens at the end of it. I have another friend who didn't confront me, but let everything fester. And I'm toxic to him because I'm doing things that I didn't even know I was doing.
Yeah.
Legit didn't even know I was doing. He didn't confront me, and then 12 years later, that crap blows up, and all of a sudden, I'm this guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have reasons for everything that you feel. Every single thing that you feel, there is a perfect reason that would have explained it the second it happened. And I think that's the problem when you don't handle things quickly, or when you're afraid to have that confrontation, you end up inadvertently creating that havoc in your own life, and you start feeling like this uneasiness of like, man, sometimes I'm annoyed, sometimes I don't like this person, and you haven't even told them what's up. If you tell them what's up and they still don't fix it, then you know this person isn't for you. Like, they're just not. It's not important enough to fix. When my boy Nick told me what he told me, it was fixed. We have never had that problem again because why? I care about him and I want to fix it.
But even the thing is, like, this other friend that didn't confront you, you said you had but even if you didn't have an answer for everything, I'm sure there is something you did where you were just being an ass. Like, and you didn't know, because everyone is. And so the honest answer is, you know what? You probably did something that you didn't have a reason for. You messed up one time. We're all human and we all do it. The onus is on the person. Brandon, if you have done something to me, whether you have a reason for it or not, if I continue to not confront that, that's on me.
Yeah.
That's me saying that's okay for you to treat me like that.
Right.
And sometimes we have to understand that the ownership of toxic people in our life is a two-way street. When that's an actual relationship in our life, there has been steps that we've taken to allow them in and to allow them to continue treating us like that. Now, I think that Ange asked a really cool question at the beginning to you, Brandon, of like that guy that was talking crap about your dad to you.
Yeah.
In one sense, that conversation was shocking to you, but I liked that question because what is it in him that felt like you could have that conversation? Now, you cut that off, obviously.
Yeah.
That was where you said that's not cool, but
In the early part, there was no healthy boundaries.
Yes.
For me.
to say, oh, that's crossing a line.
Yeah.
So it's almost like me saying, well, this person has just like thinks that she or he can just be in my life whenever they want. They can pick me up and drop me whenever they want. Like, I'm always meant to be the pastor to them. I'm always meant to be giving them stuff. They've been doing it for 5 years. And it's like, whoa. If they've been doing that for 5 years, where was the point where you said, I'm going to allow you to continue taking advantage of me? Like, it is a two-way street. And that's why it's like, at first we've got to label it toxic behavior, not toxic people. Because toxic behavior means there's still hope for a future
Right.
relationship.
That's
Let's see
good.
what happens from this
That's good.
conversation.
That's what I think.
Well, do you think it really is when you say two-way, what do you mean by? Because I think it's when you said toxic things in your life, I almost feel like it's just one way. It's just like your way. Like you either accept it in your life or you don't. You either want it and call it out, or you allow it to exist. Because at the end of the day, that person won't know what the hell she's doing. She don't know, or he don't know they're being toxic until you call it out. And if you don't, and then just complain in the background, that's like so unfair to them because you're really not giving them a chance to
That's why it's a
remedy
two-way
the
street.
situation.
But that's why it's a two-way street, is because if they are doing behaviors that are toxic behaviors towards you and you don't call that out, like that's why it's a two-way street. It's their responsibility to change their behavior. And it's also your responsibility to have the conversation about that behavior.
So post you having the conversation.
Yeah, so you guys can meet in the middle. And I think as well, it's a very black and white way to look at it, that it's just their fault or victim. It's all me. There's something, I'm just such a kind person and everyone takes advantage of me. Well, yeah, all right. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I think it's very black and white that we would say that it's a one-way thing when I do think it's a two-way street. And I've been on both sides of it, being toxic, having toxic people, and I think I can see my responsibility in both situations. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
No, it was just different. We saying the
Got
same
it.
thing.
Cool.
When I say one way, I just mean as far as whose responsibility is to get toxicity out of your life. It's like on you.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
agree
what I
with
mean
that.
by
So it's your
one way.
responsibility to get toxicity out of your life, but
Yes.
it doesn't necessarily mean you're responsible for the toxicity.
No. Of
No,
course not.
no.
No, you're just responsible whether or not it stays.
Right.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
I talked about on the abuse podcast, a guy that I was dating that was super toxic to me. And I learned many valuable lessons in the short time that we dated. And I confronted all of the things. We stopped dating and I wrote it all out in an email because I didn't want to see him. We were done in person. We were done. And then I wrote him an email and I said, these are all the things here. And I confronted all of those things. This is why we're not dating. And then he was like, I'm so sorry. Can we meet up in person so I can apologize in person? Sure. And then we met up in person and it wasn't an apology. It was an excuse for all of those things. So it was like sometimes confronting is not enough and just draw the line, the boundary, and remove the person from your life, which may even be what your friend feels or felt, where you were like, I have an answer for every single one of those things, is kind of like what he was saying to me, but I don't know exactly what your conversation was, but he was not only like, I have an answer for every single one of those things, but I have an
that was
answer,
wrong. I'm
but I
sorry.
have an answer to show how you are wrong in every single one of those things. But clarify what you were going to say.
When I said I have an answer, I just meant either an explanation or a I'm sorry.
yeah.
I get
Like
that.
a remedy
makes
to how I hurt you. If I hurt you and I genuinely like hurt you and I'm like, damn, I'm sorry. Or I thought you did this when you did this, then I can be like, oh, but you told me, like in this situation, why wasn't I a part of your group? Right? I could say, if I didn't have an answer to that, man, I'm sorry I didn't invite you to be a part of the group. I could have said that.
Right.
Or the truth was, bruh, you told me you hated being around these immature little kids. You wanted no parts of this group because there were immature kids in it. That's an answer. Oh,
Right.
yeah, I did say that.
Right.
Yeah, nigga, so why would I invite you to be a part of this group? You know
But
what
when
I'm
it's
saying?
compiled for so long,
Right.
But was the way that he approached that, was it him kind of not seeing an issue with his actions? Was that what you felt like what was happening? Because that's different than even what you're saying. What you're saying is there's an understanding into, I know you don't like this, so I'm not going to. But for some people, like when you confront them
They don't
and
even
you were
see
setting
it.
these boundaries, they're like, well, I don't even see the issue with that action. Like you're saying this thing hurt me, but I don't see an issue with it.
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm looking up quotes, and there's one of them that says, you can't change someone who doesn't see an issue in their actions.
Yeah.
well,
And it's like, well, and he's not that type of person. Like he's a smart dude.
who your
It's
guy or Angela's?
my guy.
Oh.
Were you talking about her guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
He's
asking her.
He definitely did not see an issue in that.
Yeah, he for sure did not see an issue to the point where he was like, you know, we can still be friends. And I was like, no, I don't want to be your friend. And was like, well, why? I'm friends with all my exes. So at this point, I'm a trophy, like on the wall. You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, no, that's you could be friends with all your exes. That's fine. But I don't want to be friends with you. Because at the time, like, I still had like feelings, but they're not reciprocated. So I'm not going to put myself in a position to continue to be hurt. And I felt like that was very articulate and like setting clear boundaries for myself, for my own sanity, for my peace. And his response was, well, then why are you worshiping your feelings? And like trying to get me to question my boundaries, my healthy boundaries for myself, not seeing his side of anything. And so it was just like, it's okay. I don't need to explain myself to you. Like, go live your life. I'll go live mine. And I drew those boundaries for myself with that person and made sure I've learned many lessons from that situation, and I've taken those lessons with me. I've learned about being humiliated in front of my family and friends. I learned about being humiliated in front of that person's friends. I learned about being manipulated. I learned about feeling worthless. I learned about never being able to measure up. I learned so many things in that, and I've taken those lessons with me. And to the point where I have now a situation where I have someone in my life who has never shown me that they're a toxic person to me at all, but this person has decided to invite that person into their life. And so now I'm in a position where I need to draw boundaries with this person who has always been a good friend to me because they're partnering with someone that's poison to me.
Here's a quote to go with that. This is good. You have to speak to be heard, but sometimes you have to be silent to be appreciated. Do you get that?
It took me a second.
Okay, so she had to speak up to this nigga and to her friend and be like, yo, this is how I feel. This is what you are. This is how I feel. And the silent is being able to be like, we can't be friends.
It's an interesting
And I don't even need to tell you why.
experience you're having. I know that feeling. I don't know that situation. I don't ever say, I know exactly how you feel. Those people are dumb. Speaking of toxic, I'm kidding. What? For me, I think, oh my gosh, Manuel, I just realized you finished all your wine. I've never been more proud of you.
Whoa.
Someone get the man another glass.
I did only have a little bit.
See, Linda, look how
so
good this
proud of
wine
you.
is.
I'm good.
Yes, get
You
him
need it for the
all.
toast at the end, at least.
I'm setting you
Okay,
up for a successful
sorry, that was
future.
intermission.
Yes.
Sorry, intermission. I think for me, going through the divorce and then living in the same city still with my ex-husband, that was a really interesting process for me. Not that I really truly wasn't trying to create sides. I don't think you can help it, is my personal opinion when it comes to breakups. Like, we all want to believe that you don't have to take sides. I think the extent to which you take sides with someone, for lack of a better term, is the degree that you go deep in a relationship with one of them. That's my opinion. And there were some people that I'm like, you know the depths of what happened in that relationship. Yeah. I don't mean the surface. It's not like you saw the Instagram post that we were gone. My Instagram handle changed and...
You walked with me.
You walked with me. Mm-hmm. And it's funny. It's funny you said that. I didn't know that because there was a deep friend of mine that I know is still just found out, like, great friends. And it's fine. I'm fine. No, but it is something that's like, wow, ow. I'm not saying you're a toxic person. You're not. I'm just questioning why we're now creating a triangle of friendship when you know how harmful that toxicity was in my life. Why are you willingly putting yourself in that environment? It's really tough because you don't want to say they're toxic for everybody. What if it is a gluten situation?
Right.
You assume it's going to be crack, but sure, this could be gluten. The other thing is, like, how do you know over the years, can somebody grow? My prayer is still that there is a reconciliation one day with my ex, as like, to be cool, like, and on good terms. And I really do hope and pray that happens one day. I don't know if that'll happen. That'll be very dependent on situations and growth. But what do you do with that? And it's a genuine question. Looking at Brandon because I just like feel like there's wisdom from over this side of the table. Brandon, help. No, but like when you see a friend that is being close with someone that's either been toxic to you, let's just go with you because you can't judge them being toxic to someone else you don't know. What do you do in that situation?
Man, that is tough.
I know.
Okay.
You're up.
So if I'm in the place of that, because I actually went through this a little bit, but it wasn't an ex-wife. It was just an ex-girlfriend. So not as serious.
Sorry,
But I just
heartbreak's
remember
heartbreak.
after we broke up, I mean, I was toxic in that relationship too, kind of going back to what Ange started off with, of how sometimes that person maybe necessarily isn't toxic, but you together is a toxic combination. So my last relationship, super toxic, both of us. I'm like not proud of who I was in the last couple of months of that relationship. And for those of you who follow me on Instagram, I posted a petty video of me that I actually sent to her, which is great. It's still one of my favorite videos myself. I love the
So if I had gotten that,
Would you have broken up with me if you got that?
I would just been like, what the? I would have sent you one back as petty, probably.
Cool.
So
There we go.
you've met your match.
As petty. Let's be petty together.
You know what I used to do back in my days, because I'm a little bit older, we would have voicemails on our pagers. This is back in pager
On our
days.
Pagers. I wanted one so bad.
Yes, we would have a pager, and some people had a voicemail on their pager, so you can call the number and leave me a voicemail. Well, I would change my voicemail greeting to be whatever message to whatever I wanted to say. So one time I was dating
God,
this guy.
I wanted.
And if you called my voicemail pager, it would be the Usher song, "You Make Me Wanna Leave the One I'm With." And I played just that part. "You make me wanna leave the one I'm with." What's up? You reach Angela? Go ahead and leave me a message. Hella petty.
Oh man, I'm just like, because again, I'm proud of the petty part of me. It's just matured. It's been refined over the years. It's like a good wine. Like
Those petty
now
thoughts
it's
never
good.
actually go
No,
away.
they
It's the fun
don't.
of it.
Oh man, best place to be petty is church too. I love it. So for me, I had a couple of friends who were still like trying to kick it with her, and I was like, "Yo, this is a problem. If you're my guy, you can't be hanging out with my ex." Like, I'd say, yeah, most of my exes I'm not friends with, and that's okay. Like, I'm good. For some people, they want to be friends with their exes.
And
Good for you.
to make the like distinction, it's not that you're enemies.
No.
You're just not
Boundaries.
There's
Yeah, I'm
boundaries.
just
So we're
like,
not saying that when Angela was saying she didn't want to be friends with that guy, she was saying now we have to hate each other forever. She's just like, no, I want to make that distinction of space and boundaries. I think
Yeah.
that's important.
And
I
think
mean,
too,
I
it's-
still think you're gross.
Sure. Okay. Maybe that was a
I
bad
still think you're
example.
gross,
As my-
but
as
For the
my
record,
young-
with him.
as my young people would say, that's trash, bro. That's trash. And so I'm just like, yo, at this point in my life, I don't see what value you bring to my life. Not saying that you're not valuable. You just don't bring value to my life.
In our relationship, yeah.
And so I realized I'm like, okay, I have to get real with myself. Maybe we're not as tight as I thought we were. And that's kind of one of those like gut punches. You're like,
Yep.
oh, I hate this. I thought we were boys. We're not boys. But then the second thing was I just realized, okay, there's aspects of me that now we can't go deeper in our relationship. So in a way, you've kind of shown this is the ceiling of our relationship.
Yep.
And this is what's going to be.
Ugh.
And that's like, it's weird. It's more painful feeling that disappointment than it is like the actual thought of like, oh, we're not going to get deeper in our relationship. It's just the thought of like, we're maxed out. This sucks. I thought we could have been more.
Yes.
I am literally going through that right now, to where I've been crying all week, mourning a friendship, because it's one of those things where it's like, this has highlighted we're not as close as we've pretended to be for the past few years, because we have longevity in our relationship, our history. We have so much good times in our history. We have so much loyalty in our history. But for the past few years, we have pretended to be as close as we once were.
Yeah.
And to me, the fact that we're even able to be in this situation shows how far apart we've grown.
Yeah.
And not to say that there's not room for grace for in the future things come back around, and maybe this is a break we need from our friendship so that we can grow stronger in the future or whatever. Or maybe it's the ceiling and that's it. But I'm not going to define that. I don't think I need to define it. I don't think I need to label it. I've drawn healthy boundaries for myself, and this friend has drawn healthy boundaries for themselves. And it's sad for our friendship, but at the same time, I'm just gonna keep living my life and keep being loving, and who knows what the future looks like, and leave it at that.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing when those friendships come back around. I mentioned, I think someone earlier, that I was so close with during like maybe 4 years ago in LA. And she was there during my engagement season. And then we had a fairly big falling out before the wedding. And like it was a big one. And there was so much toxicity in my life that I didn't even recognize. Again, going back to the fresh eyes thing, wasn't prepared to see as well. Wasn't prepared to own my own ish too. But just so much toxicity happening. And part of that relationship became toxic. And she didn't want to own her stuff. Like the whole situation was messed up. I didn't want to own, I'm sure, stuff that I did. Many kind of relate to you on that for sure, but I didn't know a lot of that stuff. So our relationship broke up, our friendship broke up in a big way. And sometimes like friendship breakups are as heartbreaking as other breakups, sometimes more, because it's like you form these not just friendships, but family relationships. And it feels like a death, and I get it. And this girl is now 4 years later, is back in my life. We have like a different friendship now. There's different boundaries, but she's a good friend of mine. Now she's grown, I've grown, life has been different. And it's a nice, healthy way to see, oh man, that's really cool that you can go through things where you both have ish, you take a break, and then you just allow life and God to organically bring things around when you both see, okay, I'm watching this, and I know she was watching me, and over time, key term, over time, we've gone, all right, cool. Again, life's changed, so it's not the same, but it is nice to know that while there are heartbreaking situations where maybe you're listening and you realize there's a relationship I need to take a break from and create some boundaries, that doesn't have to mean forever. But for right now, for like your health, for our health, there are moments when it's like, I gotta take 5 on this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, I got 7 quotes that I feel.
Okay. Manny's been doing research this whole
Oh
time.
my God, no, because as you guys are talking, I'm just like taking it in, because I'm realizing that I'm older and I'm way past a lot of the feeling bad stuff, because I'm literally at the point where I don't take no shit from no one.
There are people that are older that are still.
I'm just talking about me. As I got older, I got real more cutthroat in my life, and I don't feel bad about anything. I just keep that crap moving. But so I'm listening to y'all's heart, and I'm like reading all these quotes, and I'm like, man, these quotes are so good, and you guys are kind of saying all of them. But I'm saying these 7 so that people can hear them in like this context.
All right.
Okay.
Quote number 1.
Okay, and so that we can wrap this up. Quote number 1. Removing toxic people from your life isn't the difficult part. Not feeling guilty about it is. Because at some point, you have to realize that some people can stay in your heart, but not in your life. It's kind of like what you realize.
Yes.
This is what I've been saying. Actions prove who someone is. Words just prove who they want to be.
Damn.
And this is another one. We teach people how to treat us.
Yeah.
Ooh, these are fire quotes.
Sometimes
babe.
your heart needs more time to accept what your mind already knows.
Oh, that one is
Come
me.
on.
That one. My dad always says, I'm throwing a quote in there, but it's like Michael Murphy, so it's fine. My dad always says, sentimental attachment is the enemy to strategic advancement. And I think in terms of life, so often we are so sentimentally attached to people that their heart is like, oh, but this person, but the longevity. And to go forward in my life, not strategic in a manipulative sense, strategic in I know where God's called me.
Yeah.
I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Can I let go of the sentimentality of it?
I have a lot of trinkets in my office from sentiment that are there. and they
Trinkets,
need to go
man.
in
That
the
I keep
trash.
telling you to throw away.
Trinkets.
But
I
these-
will
Definition.
save birthday cards for sentiment.
Obese has a real sentimental gift that she really loves for her last
hate
birthday.
you
That's
so
still
much.
in there too.
It was sentimental for all of
very
us.
sentimental.
Shut up.
Your boys out here 2 a.m. doing ELYSE crossword puzzles, man. Got me tripping.
Hey,
No, he probably listens, you guys.
the easiest way to move forward is to let go of people who are holding you back. That's
Ooh,
facts.
that's a good one. Keep
Say that
going.
one more time.
And the easiest way to move forward is to let go of people who are holding you back. And the last one, to give some hope and some context, letting go doesn't mean giving up, but rather accepting that there are things that cannot be. And
These
that's
are
where
all
I
really
live my
strong
life.
quotes.
I live my life as like, yo, man, some people just don't want to be in your life.
Yeah.
And it's kind of prideful for me to expect that I'm supposed to be like number one in their life.
The savior. Savior
some people
complex.
just don't, like, I felt that with my past group, my original group. I really wanted to be the guy that they were like, thank you so much for giving us a career and for helping and sacrificing. It's like, nigga, they have people that they like more than you, bruh. Just accept it. Keep it moving. You ain't it for them. You are not it. And I was like, yeah, I guess I'm not. Maybe I didn't show the best. So, I mean, but this is a dope quote because it's just accepting that there are things that just cannot be. And it's okay. Like, it's legit okay. I'm going to post these. I'll post these so that people can, like, get down with them on our Instagram. And if you're not following us on Instagram, follow The Nice Pod. We're on all the socials. And please check us out on YouTube. We're gonna wrap this guy up. And we're so grateful that you guys...
This is one of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite ones we've done this season.
Yeah, it's very
felt
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Look, we're hoping if you
This
are
one's very
dealing with...
therapeutic for me.
If you are dealing with toxic people in your life, look, the important thing is...
Get rid of him. I'm kidding. What?
No, it is.
What?
It is very important to get rid of them, but get rid of them in a way that you, like Bobby said, that the bridge isn't burned.
That's right.
At least on your end. They could burn it all day on their end, which will only, again, show you who they are. Actions show you who they are. Words to show you who they want to be. So let them show you who they are. And then here's your job, listener. As they show you who they are, accept it.
Yeah.
Don't make excuses. Don't give reasons. Just accept who they are and be okay with who they're showing you they want to be in your life. Because that way it takes out all the hard work for you. I mean, now after that, you just got to get over it. You feel me?
You said a quote earlier, and my phone's over there, so I don't remember, but something about
Colors.
let people show you their true colors, and then use that to paint the sign
That says
goodbye.
That was my own quote. I kind of came out of that one.
Damn, print it.
Shandara siyanta.
I came out with that one. Anyways, we love you guys so much. Thank you for listening. This has been an amazing time. Hey, we pray that you find a seat at the table, but if you don't, you are always welcome at ours.
Cheers.
We love you guys.
Unless you're toxic.
Unless you're toxic, get the hell out of here.
Don't get
Got
into
no
table.
time for you, no table.
Let me choose. We both know what this is. We both can speak truthfully. If you're honest, we got no problem at all. No problem at all. Keep you honest. You ain't like to call. You ain't like to go. If you're honest, we got no problem at all. No problem at all. If I'm honest. I'm not what you're looking for. I'm not what you're looking for. You can walk right out the door. I'm not what you're looking for.
Hey, I'm loving the way you dress, loving the way you smell. Love it that when I'm with you, these people treating me well. Love it that you don't know it, but when we kissing, I tell. And you were none the wiser, cause this an image we sell. Wait, I didn't mean it, I was kidding. Who are we to question the way we custom to living? Maybe love is really for those who blind in the vision. But let's be honest, happiness is simply a decision, yeah.
If you're honest, we got no problem at all. No problem at all. Keep you honest. You ain't like to call. You ain't like to go. If you're honest, we got no problem at all. No problem at all. If I'm honest, I'm not what you're looking for. I'm not what you're looking for.
benefits of an arrangement that forces us both to stay. Maybe I'll grow on you, care less about the truth. Now we ain't the only ones doing this, trust me, I promise, girl,
I
don't
know
be
what
fooled.
you're